In response to two Star-Advertiser articles, the Honolulu Police Department initiated an inquiry into the arrest of Mana Morales and Ken Fanoi Moana. A preliminary review of the reports and the video taken by HPD shows that Mr. Morales was asked multiple times to release himself from the cattle gate but refused. Officers were forced to cut him loose from his chains at the gate. Before doing so, they put a blanket over his head to protect him from any potential metal or anything that might fly during the cutting process. After the lock was cut out, Mr. Morales related that he was willing to walk to the police transport vehicle. He was asked several times, and at no time did he state that he was ever sick, nor did he have any visible injuries, or did he complain of any injuries. Data was captured, or is captured, and recorded on tasers whenever the probes are deployed, or when the drive-stun method is used. There is no record of any taser being used in any form on Mr. Morales or any of the individuals arrested at Kalaeloa or Kahuku. I want to show you a video, and this is video that was taken by the Honolulu Police Department. It is redacted to remove the tool that was used to cut out Mr. Morales, the chains from Mr. Morales, and some of the verbiage that the police use talking about strategy or terminology or techniques that are used to cut him out. You guys see the video, Paulina? This is how Mr. Morales was found originally at the cattle gate. He had been there for a short period before police addressed him. Police were addressing the protesters in front of the driveway prior to going to address Mr. Morales. Note the zip ties on the sides. The police actually zip tied the chain up so that the pressure was not on his neck anymore, like how you saw him in the beginning. So the police are taking an awful lot of time and showing compassion and professionalism in dealing with Mr. Morales, not leaving him there to suffer. Also given a bucket that he can sit on so that his full weight is not resting on the chain or on the cattle gate. There you can see the blanket that's placed over his head. The reason it's placed over his head, if you notice, the lock is right in front of his face, so if we cut it, any kind of metal filings or anything flies, at least he's got some protection. You can see the bucket under him that he's sitting on. The bucket was provided by the police there to make it easier for him. First try to cut the chain, but the tool cannot, because the size of the chain, the tool cannot be used to cut the chain. They'll switch to cutting the padlock in a minute.
They tried to cut the lock? Yeah, they cut the lock first.
They're gonna make several attempts just because the lock cannot fit properly into the tool at that angle, so they'll do it one more time before they switch to another angle and finally cut the lock. As you can see, there's no grinding or anything, it's all done by pressure.
Everything gets done. There you go. There, right. There you go. Where's that come?
Take notice of how careful they are to take the chain off of him and continually ask him how he's doing. Records indicate that Mr. Morales was taken to a medical facility after his arrest for a pre-existing health condition that's unrelated to the arrest. He was treated and released before he bailed out. The Honolulu Police Department is dedicated to protecting life and property and upholding the law and rights of all. This includes the public's right to protest, but does not include the right to violate the law. Any evidence of officer misconduct should be reported to the Honolulu Police Commission or the Honolulu Police Department so these allegations can be fully investigated. I'll take some questions.
Acting Chief, Mr. Morales says that he was punched in the body and that a taser was used at close range up to his skin on his left side. So was he being truthful in this particular situation?
I'm not gonna guess on his truthfulness or not. You can see from the video, he clearly was not injured. He was not punched during that time. The taser would leave video evidence of the fact that it was used, and we don't have that evidence. So there was no taser used at any time, and clearly he wasn't punched, he wasn't injured at all.
Do any of the officers who were involved with the protesters carry tasers?
Some officers do, some officers don't. Most of, I believe all of the officers that are actually affecting the arrest do not carry tasers. Some of the officers on the front line, the bicycle officers that you see, the transporting officers carry tasers as a normal course of their duty. The officers that are addressing the actual protesters making the arrest don't do so because they have enough equipment on their belt. They don't have enough space, and it's not a necessary tool for them.
Has Mr. Morales filed a police report, a complaint to police? And
No.
if he did, what would be?
There's been no complaint to the police. If he did, the proper way would be to either report the complaint of misconduct to the Honolulu Police Commission or to the Honolulu Police Department Professional Standards Office.
The officers that are making the arrest, what are they carrying on there?
On their
persons?
belts?
Yes.
Of course, they've got their duty weapon, and they've got some other, you can clearly see they've got a pouch they've got the zip ties and some other things. It gets a little bulky, but their equipment is more for tactical than for everyday law enforcement type uses.
So just to clarify, the officers in that video and who made the arrest, they had no tasers?
None of them were carrying tasers. You can see it in the video, and none of them are carrying tasers.
Is there any specific reason the other protesters' view of the process was obstructed by the truck?
It was not, the truck was brought in because it has heavy equipment, and rather than carry the equipment in, they moved the truck closer. They have to assess the situation. They don't, think of it this way, if they leave the truck parked far away and bring the wrong tool, they have to carry it back. That's that much longer that we have to take to address the situation, or leave him there. Potentially, if he had gone undetected, remember now, he snuck in behind the police line to chain himself to the cattle gate in an effort to stop the convoy or the trucks. If he had not been seen or had, we had let it go too long or not been addressed, you can see it initially how the chains are starting to take a bit of a toll on him.
Just so I have a clearer picture, from where the other protesters were to where Mr. Morales was, how many yards roughly?
It's- If I had to guess, and I've not been to that scene, for at least 10 to 20 yards or so, if I guess, and it's just a guess, it's not an exact amount.
Can you address the arrest that was made in Kahuku? Another individual has also said that there was unnecessary force used when he was being arrested.
You can see by the video how much time and care we've taken. We've gotten complimented by civilians, even the protesters, about the way and the manner that the care and caution we're taking in arresting them. I haven't been able to address or see his complaint. He says he's gonna file one, and that's his right. We haven't had time to review all of the evidence in that as well either, so I just rather leave it as he's made an allegation and he has that right. He can continue it with the police commission if he wants to.
Mr. Morales said that he was not treated at the hospital. You said he was treated and released?
He was treated at the hospital.
Okay, and what did they find?
He had no injuries other than a pre-existing ailment. So
And
there
what
were
would
no injuries at all from the incident.
Now, what would a stun gun, use of a taser in stun gun fashion, what would be visible?
What would be visible? He'd probably have some sort of injury at the point of contact.
Just some,
Think of it, if you got
Pinpricks.
stunned with an electric gun, you would have some kind of electrical injury. So I'll leave it to you to think what kind of injury might have been done. But he would definitely have some sort, if he got punched like he says he did, if he got stunned like he said he did, there would be some sort of injury.
It was hard to tell from the video how many officers were taking part in breaking this chain. How many officers were part of that?
Only two actually breaking the
Only
chain.
two.
You saw one that was holding it, and evidently it's not a very hazardous manner because he's holding it with his bare hands while the other one cuts the chain.
And you had a technical term for that process. What was it called?
I'm sorry. Which process?
You were talking before, Mr. Morales wasn't tased, but there was another technical process you were referring to about what the officers were doing in that moment. There was a term that you used, and I'm blanking on it now.
I'm sorry.
I'll look at it.
Yeah, if you can remember or play it
Yeah.
back, I'll answer it, but I don't know which term you're referring to.
Can you provide us with some stats? How many to date arrests have you made, and how many of them have been repeat arrests?
I know there's been a total of 111 arrests. I don't know the exact number of repeats. Over the last 2 nights, there haven't been any repeat offenders. It's gone down. I believe Sunday and Monday there were some repeat offenders, but since then it's gone down. I don't have the number of repeats, I'm sorry.
Acting Chief, are you concerned about the tactics of protesters? We did see PVC pipe and handcuffs at one point. Now this man is claiming that he was mistreated by police.
The tactics are very concerning. This is different from other protests that we've had. They've employed what's called sleeping dragons, which they thankfully disengaged from themselves. I've seen not officers, but protesters there wearing bandanas and masks. That anonymity emboldens people normally. You think about normal people don't normally cover their face because they have nothing to hide. You're gonna do something. The protesters have been taunting our officers, threatening our officers, telling them to quit their jobs. The officers have done a tremendous job keeping their composure and maintaining professionalism out on the front line. They've even commented themselves, some of you have been out there live streaming to catch some of this stuff. So the protesters in this case are definitely not exercising Kalaeloa, and that's been a concern of ours.
What is Kalaeloa in your terms?
It's not my terms, it's their terms.
No, you said they're not exercising.
They're not behaving.
How is that?
They're not behaving. They've been,
Have you seen other protests in other places? This seems very mild.
anybody else got a question?
How many officers were on scene last night?
I don't know. I don't have that.
Do you
figure.
have those stats though?
We know how many officers are there. I just don't have it available to me right now.
Would you be able to release those?
We've said that there have been approximately 230 out nightly.
230,
Yes.
And that's between the two sites.
both sides, all together.
And is that a decision by HPD, or are you getting,
We don't work for anybody but the city and county of Honolulu. We're
Not
not
the
getting paid
governor
by.
or
no,
anyone?
We're not paid by the governor, we're not paid by the private. We're there to ensure public safety and law enforcement, that the law is upheld, no other reason. We're not paid by big corporate America, we're not paid by protesters, liberalists, whatever you wanna call them. We're there just to make sure everybody's safe.
And-
Acting
and-
Chief, can you give a specific example of how the protesters are not following Kalaeloa?
Well, again, the taunting of our officers. 2 nights ago, there was a male going up and down the line, spraying them with water and using very inciting behavior, mannerisms, talk. The males, 3 nights ago, were wearing bandanas over their faces. They're telling our officers to put down their guns, put down their badge, telling them to go work at Walmart. There's been a bunch of things addressing the frontline officers.
Do you share with your officers the rights of the protesters? Do you help them to understand that they have the
The officers
right to
are well
protest?
aware and are protecting the rights of
I
the
mean, does
protesters.
HPD
We train with that, yes.
train? Okay.
We protect their rights. Everybody has rights.
And do you have the numbers of how much this is costing?
We don't have those numbers yet, sorry.
And who transported Mr. Morales to the hospital?
A police officer transported him to the station. Thank you
To
very
the s-
much.